What's up, y'all? Football season is upon us, and this weekend we got a big game, Michigan versus Michigan State. Whatever side you're on, I hope you do well. I like both teams. Everybody hates me for that, but I have no reason to like one or the other. So hopefully that didn't turn you off from this episode. But what we did want to do is because it's football season, because the big game's going on, we wanted to touch about why it's important not to train like a football player or not to train like a professional athlete. And there's a couple different scenarios for this. And I know a lot of the times, and it used to be, especially like back in the 70s and 80s, like everyone would look at bodybuilders and say, like, oh, that's how I need to train because their body is in good shape. But there's a lot of other things, factors with that, right? A lot of them are taking steroids, they're training a certain way, they're doing it hours and hours upon end every day, every week. And the average person isn't doing all that. And here's the thing, like if you don't want to look like a football player, why are you training like a football player? Why are you doing some of those things? So this is, and I hear it more with guys, but I hear it with a lot of females too, and it drives me nuts. Is this is not, I mean, I get you can call bodybuilders professional athletes, I guess, but a little bit different than a football player, obviously. But it's when they come in and I'm talking with them, talking about what they're doing now, and they're struggling to get results, right? They're like, yeah, my plan's pretty good. I'm doing back and arms one day, and then I do chest and tries, and they're doing like kind of like a bodybuilding split, but they're not doing nearly the amount of volume they need to. They're not eating the certain way that they need to. They're not doing the steroids, right? So like they're doing a plan because they've seen it on Instagram or their favorite bodybuilder or they heard about it from this person or that person. And it's a terrible plan for what they're trying to accomplish. So we talked about it a couple episodes when we were talking about the Tylenol controversy and trusting your gut, trusting your instincts, and trusting how your body is responding. Because here's the thing, and this is something I think a lot of people, it's very logical, but a lot of people don't think about it. If the current training program you're doing isn't working and you're eating exactly how you need to nutrition, I won't count on nutrition because that's obviously a big part of it, but if you're if you're doing everything right nutritionally, lifestyle habits, you're getting a lot of sleep, you're working on your stress, all of those things, you're drinking a lot of water, and you're still not getting the results that you want, maybe it's because your plan is not the way you should be training, right? And we see so many people try to train like professional athletes when professional athletes literally that's their job. They're spending hours a day doing that profession, training their bodies, doing all this stuff. And the vast majority of us two included, and you guys listening, don't have that kind of time or don't have that situation there. So when it comes to training, when it comes to, how should you train and everything there is train like the type of person you want to become or what you want to look like. So if I'm trying to lose weight, if I go in and I'm just doing a bodybuilding workout or I'm, just lifting super heavy and that's the only thing I'm doing, well, it's very unlikely that I'm going to lose all my weight, right? But if I want to be just like super lean with a little bit of muscle tone and anything there, like, and I'm not doing anything cardiovascular or whatever it is, like you're missing the boat and you're not doing the thing that you need to. So I think big picture, I'm almost like like piggybacking off our episode a few weeks ago, talking about like trusting your gut, trusting what works or what doesn't, is just because somebody's a professional athlete and they look maybe somewhat the way that you want to look doesn't mean that you need to mimic their exact training model because a lot of times you can't anyways, right? So that's kind of my first initial thought when it comes to training like a football player, training like a professional athlete, and why maybe we shouldn't look as them as the models for how to do our training process.
Yeah, and I think that this is one that it's really hard when you're in the fitness industry and yes, football players obviously, but like I think it just that was more of a way to just kind of get into this topic of like, hey, don't compare yourself to basically someone that you're not. But I kind of want to talk about going back on the bodybuilding. I think in the fitness industry, when we search health and fitness, we tend to like go towards those who are in the bodybuilding or like the physique type people. And I think that It is. It just so like what is your end goal? And that's something that I always recommend you thinking of. Like, is your end goal to be a football player? Is your end goal to get on stage and like have that bodybuilding body? Is it the end goal for you to be a professional rower or whatever that may be? Like, if that is your end goal, then probably you shouldn't be listening to this episode. We're probably not going to give you the best advice, but I can guarantee that most people listening to this episode, their end goal is just to feel good and look good and like feel confident in their skin. And you're not going to get that by training like someone that you don't want to be. And I think that it's a beautiful, like, a lot of motivational speakers will be like, pick your, pick a role model that you want to like be like and live like them. And I'm not saying that like a football player or a physique or building athlete can't be someone that you are looking up to, but to live a life the way they are, like they just have different situations. And, if you're like totally tuned out because you're like, I don't compare myself to a physique person, I don't compare myself to a football player. Well, not trying to throw my mom under the bus, but like I just had a really wonderful conversation with her the other day. She's looking great and I'm super proud of her and she's lost a bunch of weight, but she was just still complaining. She's like, it's just not good enough. Like I'm still feeling like my stomach's a little flabby and I just still feel like I'm not where I want to be. And I just was like, Mom, you are not trying to throw her age out there either, but like you are getting close to 60 years old. Like your body is not going to look the way a 25, 30-year-old girl's body is going to look. And I think that I'm sure a lot of listeners to this episode probably feel that way. You're maybe in your mid 50s, mid 60s, even like mid 40s, having kids, gone through it all. And you're just sitting there like, oh my gosh, like I just don't love the way I look. I'm sitting here at the pool. I mean, I know it's fall now, but like, what we just went through summer, you're at the pool and you're looking at all these young, like, girls with this just tight body and these like cute little booties, and you're just like, oh, I'm not confident in my skin because I can't look like that. Well, you're comparing yourself to someone that's in something that you're never going to achieve because you don't have the body mechanics that someone that looks like that does look like. And yes, I do think a lot of it is genetics. There are some 60-year-old women that look absolutely rocker from not even having to do anything. And God bless them. They're very lucky. But I think that, if we get stuck in this comparison trap where we're trying to compare ourselves to someone, and so in order to get that way, we're training like that person, you're going to basically run yourself dry. You're going to burn yourself out because it's just not possible. You just can't be that way. And also to not fear like oh, I like if I do something too much, I'm going to be too much, like on the opposite spectrum, right? Like if I lift weights, I mean, how often, Danny, I'm sure you've heard, oh, if I lift weights, I'm going to get bulky. I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. I feel like we've kaposhed that myth many times on this show that lifting weights is not going to make you look bulky. um but again, not to say that it's not possibly going to make you look like you have more muscle, and that's not a bad thing. But I think that if we remember, like, hey, we are all our own bodies, we need to not compare ourselves to others and our journeys to others because everyone's different. Everyone's lives are different. Like, you might have someone sitting next to you in the gym who's the same exact age, who's the same exact, has the same amount of kids and yada, 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 but you just have a completely different life than them. Like, maybe you work night shift, like you're a nighttime nurse, and this mom next to you, doesn't have, her job is a stay-at-home mom, and yet you're sitting there like, but everything is the same between us. Like, we are the same age, we look the same, but my body just doesn't look the same. Well, it's because you're different. You have a different schedule. You might have, or you might be a single mom and you have to do more things on your own. Again, we can get into this trap of trying to train like someone that we just can't become because the only person you could ever become is you. No matter how hard you try, you're never going to be able to become anyone else other than you. So, trying not to train like other people, trying to train exactly for you and what your body needs, I truly do believe is just always remember that and always put that firsthand.
Yeah, that's like The thing that comes to mind for me is was similar to what you just said is if we have two people with the exact same situations, exact same training regimen, they're eating the same, all like everything looks the same. Even those two people are going to have different results, right? It's going to be easier for, some things are going to be easier for the other person. So I love the idea of having a role model or somebody to mimic, but I view it less as like I have to train exactly like them or do exactly like they do. But I like role models more in terms of the psychological aspect of it is what are their habits? What are their behaviors? What are their morals that they stick to? How do they behave in certain scenarios? Like those are the type of models that are better to try to emulate because that's going to translate. If I see somebody that's in great shape, I'm going to not necessarily emulate their training program, but I'm going to emulate their habits that they're doing to get there, right? Like, what are the things that the successful people are doing? And then how can I mimic that? Not necessarily the exact training program or diet, because we talked about this before. I think it might have been last episode, where it, a diet, vegan or keto or carnivore, can work great for one person and terrible for the next, you know? So there's so many factors involved with this, and the same thing can be said for training. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely some foundational things that everybody should do. Everybody should move their body consistently. Everybody should strength train a few days a week. Everybody should probably get their heart rates up in some aspect. Everybody probably should do some form of mobility-ish, right? Not necessarily everybody, because some people are hypermobile. I'm not going to go down that path, but like you get the point, right? There's some basics that we should all do, but it doesn't mean the training program should be exactly that, right? So I think when it comes to emulating success or emulating a professional athlete because we like the way they look is maybe don't replicate their exact program because it's going to be different for you even if you did do the same thing. The results are going to vary dramatically.
Absolutely. And again, just always remembering like your goals are different. You don't need to sit there and go, the only way I'm gonna get in shape is if I train 5, 6, 7 days a week and eat all of like this so perfectly. Like again, you will burn yourself out. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, as a former professional athlete, was I in the best shape of my life? Yes. Was I performing at a place that I had to perform at? Yes. Was I burnt out? Yes. And I guarantee you, you talk to most professional athletes, if they're being truthfully honest with you, they will tell you, like, yes, they're tired, their body is burnt out. Like, our bodies were not designed to go, 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 perform, 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 perform. But yet, that is why professional athletes are paid money. It is their job. They are performing that way for a reason. You are not performing in the gym just to get paid and for that to be your career. You're doing it for a different goal, to just be healthy and to be fit, to look confident in your own skin, to live longer, whatever your why is. Remember that. Remember your why, and remember that you don't have to go balls to the wall. You don't have to train 6 days a week. There's people that have so much success just training 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 1 day a week. What's going to work for you is what's going to work for you. And I think that's just kind of like let's put the cherry on top on this episode, is like you have to just remember what's going to work for you is what is going to work for you, not for anyone else. And what other people do that works for them might not work for you. So just to always, always remember that. So hopefully you guys got some inspiration from this episode. Just wanted to, again, give you guys a friendly reminder with football season here. You don't have to train like a football player. In fact, we strongly encourage against it unless you are listening to this and you are like, I want to go be a professional athlete, then again, you might be listening to the wrong podcast because you're probably on a different trajectory than most of our members or our listeners, and that's okay, and that's wonderful, and we strongly encourage that if that's a dream that you have. But just remember what your main goal is, what your why is, and live off of that. So as always, if you got value from this episode, give us a rating and review. Share this with anybody that you think would also get value. And as always, we'll be back next week with another episode of Confidently Flawed.